What's up, everyone? Thanks so much for watching Central Online. I want to give a quick shout out to Donna watching from Palm Desert. Thanks so much for watching online. Hey, our online experience is amazing, but it's even better in person. So go to centralonline.tv/locations to find a time and location near you. Hey, are you a student or do you have a student in your household? If so, summer is right around the corner, which means it's time for summer camp. If you have a junior high, high school, or college student, they can go to fuseignite.com to sign up for the best week of their summer. But for now, let's get ready for Central Online.
What's up, Central? My name is Joshua, one of the worship leaders here. Let's stand and sing together. Staring into your eyes makes my heart come alive. Suddenly brought to life when I met you. Reaching beyond the skies, running deep, stretching wide. Perfect love realized here with you. This love is for real. Yeah, this love is for real. You will never let go, never let go. Oh, it's more than just words, love beyond my control, out of control. Yeah. And this is real love, and this is real love. And this is real love. I want you, you won't let me down. 'Cause you got me, you got me. This love is for real, you will never let go, you'll never let go. Oh, it's more than just words, love beyond my control, out of control. You're pulling me closer and closer, you're holding my heart till the very end. 'Cause Jesus, I'm found in freedom, and this is real love, this is real love. You're pulling me closer and closer, you're holding my heart till the very end. 'Cause Jesus, I'm found in freedom, and this is real love, and this is real love. Oh. Let's sing these words together, church. Staring into your eyes. Staring into your eyes makes my heart come alive. Suddenly brought to life when I met you. Front to back, side to side, let's get our hands up right now. This is real love, this is real love. Come on, church. This is real love, this is real love. Let's sing that one more time. You're pulling me closer and closer, you're holding my heart till the very end. 'Cause Jesus, I'm found in freedom, and this is real love, and this is real love, and this is real love.
Well, thank you so much for watching Central Online. If this is your first time, I want you to know that Central's a place where it's okay to not be okay. That means you can come as you are, you belong, we are so glad that you're here. Our experience is about an hour long, and afterwards I want to encourage you to go to centralonline.tv/welcome, fill out a short form, let us know a little bit more about who you are, and when you do, we have a free download of a brand new Central Live original called Jesus is Alive that we want to send you. But for now, let's continue with our online experience.
What's up, Central family? We are headed to California right now to surprise the Leilafi family. They attend Central Online every weekend, and we are so excited to surprise them. Let's go! What's up, Leilafi family? I'm proud to announce on behalf of Central Church, you guys are the winners of the At the Movies Universal Studios Vacation.
Thank you, Central Church, for the Universal!
Thank you.
My name's Aaron. I'm 24 years old. I was born from two really young parents. My mom was 18 at the time and my dad was 19 years old. And I just remember a lot of tough times, a lot of arguments I've seen when I was little. We ended up going from kind of like house to house every year, and it was very just hard seeing all these things happen in my life. And so middle school was really rough for me because I felt alone, I felt depressed, I didn't know what my purpose was in life. Transitioning from middle school to high school, I just remember feeling really low on myself. Obviously that depression was still there, and my senior year I ended up getting into a relationship, and she introduced me to Central. I saw G come up on stage and he started rapping, and like rapping just got me motivated. I was like, wow, you could rap at church. Shortly after that, the girl I was dating and I broke up. Probably one of the most depressing times of my life. This is one of the first times in my life that I actually was thinking about suicide a lot, and I was really low, and I knew I was at a crossroads. I had attached my faith to her indirectly, and I found out that I didn't even know who I was really. And so when we broke up, I felt like I had to figure out who I was. And again in my life, I think I felt like I had no sense of purpose and no sense of meaning. So towards the end of my senior year, my parents had a really big argument, and it came out that, well, my mom was pregnant with me, that my aunt had suggested she get an abortion. And I felt like nothing made me happy, nothing really brought me true joy, nothing really made me feel complete. I just felt like useless. And I thought, you know, what is stopping me? And from there is when I had that moment with God in my car. I was in my car on the way to work one morning, and I was crying, and I was just reminded of that story when Jesus was on the boat and he was sleeping, and his disciples were panicking because there was a storm, and they woke up Jesus, and he was like, "You have such little faith." And then he told the storm to stop, and for me that stopped my tears physically. That was a very pivotal part of my life, and I think it saved my life. The first time I came to Central was the first time that I experienced this feeling of being okay. You know, Central's slogan is, it's okay to not be okay, but I truly felt that. That was God's little tug for me to come home, and that was his kind of confirmation for me, like, you belong here. Now that I'm here and now that I have people in my life, I feel strong, and if you're out there and you're struggling, you're not alone, and I'm right there with you, and we have a whole family here that is right there with you, and I feel like being here at church is more than just a place. It's a home, and it's a place to be yourself, and it's a place to finally just let go of all those chains that have been holding you back all your life, and just finally be the person that you were meant to be.
Well, I love stories just like that, and here at Central, we're all about life change. And Central, I want to thank you for being such a generous church. It's because of your generosity that life change like that is possible here. We've come to a time in our experience where we get the opportunity and privilege to give back to God just a portion of what He's blessed us with through our tithes and our offerings. You can set up a safe and secure gift at centralonline.tv/give. It's the safest, the best, and the easiest way to give. It's how my husband Christian and I give here at Central. I want to thank you in advance for trusting God in this area of your life. Now let's continue with our experience.
I stand before you now. The greatness of your renown. I have heard of the majesty and wonder of you, King of heaven. In humility I bow as your peace may rise. When darkness veils the skies, I will keep a grip on hope as I sail through the unknown. Clouds fill the atmosphere, rain swell with doubt and fear, but in the middle of this storm, you show me I am not alone. Sing it out. My hope is found in Jesus. Come on. Shall pass. Clouds fill the atmosphere, rain swell with doubt and fear, but in the middle of this storm, you show me I am not alone. My hope is found in Jesus, the anchor of my soul, standing on firm foundation, a light shining. Come on, let's celebrate this together. He's our hope. Your hope is rising, see darkness. We will declare that you are the light of the world. Our hands are lifting, our voices shouting. We will declare that you are. Come on, sing it loud. Your hope is rising, darkness is trembling.
welcome everybody. Great to see you guys today. I want to say a huge welcome not only to our Henderson location, but to Summerlin and Sunrise Mountain, Southern Highlands, to our Central Kingman family, those watching us online in our partnership with God Behind Bars and different prison facilities around the country, those watching online. Thank you guys for being here. Hey, this is one of my favorite weekends of the year because I want to talk to you about something very, very important, and that is baptism and what it means for us in our lives and what it can mean for some of you in your life. If you've never been baptized, then my goal today is very simple. I just want to take away every excuse that you would have to not be baptized as much as I can, and I want to encourage you to get baptized today. Some of you had a little anxiety just now. It's okay. Hang with me, but that's my goal. You know, we live in a world it's easy to get distracted, isn't it? I feel like I'm more distracted than ever just by things going on, just by that little thing called your phone. My goodness. You know, they say that we look at our phone on average 80 times a day. 80 times a day. Actually, a couple days ago, I left my phone in another room for a couple hours, and I was driving myself crazy because I didn't have it. You know, I just kept reaching for it, checking my pockets. Where is it? It's like I don't have this thing that's always notifying us, always letting us know. Text messages, emails, pinging through. The ping, right? Ping, ping, or I don't know what sound you have. Doodle-doop, doodle-doop. Right? Like you don't even know what to do. Or the buzz. You ever have phantom buzzing if you have your phone on silent? And it's like, oh, was that, did it just, I think it just did. You know, and then you pull it out. Oh, no, false alarm. Okay. But we get very distracted. And then if you're like me, it gets distracting in conversations. Like you're sitting down, you're having breakfast or something with friends or family members or somebody that you love, you care about, and you're talking. And if it's not your phone going off all the time, it's just hard sometimes to focus. You ever had that moment where you're talking to somebody and you see their eyes just sort of go off? They glaze over and it's like they're gone. Like, come back to me, come back. Hello, I'm here. Or my wife will get a text message and she'll look down at her phone and then go, ooh. And then start responding to the text message and never tell me what it's about. This drives me crazy, you know, because I'm sitting there and I'm like, what's going on? Like, what happened? Oh my gosh, did somebody die? You know, and no, you know, the royal wedding's coming up. That happened. If you saw the royal wedding, then you saw Reverend Curry like preach the gospel at the wedding, which it was pretty cool to watch some of the royal family squirm. That was beautiful. I walked through, and Lori's watching the royal wedding. Don't worry, guys, I didn't watch it. But I walked through, and there it was. And so I had to pause for a minute when he was preaching. It was great. But we live in a world where it's easy to get distracted. In fact, I love the movie Up, the Pixar movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but one of my favorite characters from that movie is Doug the dog. I'm gonna show you a picture of Doug the dog here. Doug the dog, he's got this little collar on, and so he can talk. The problem with Doug the dog is he gets easily distracted, right? And so all the time he's in the middle of a sentence and he stops, and what does he say, you remember? Squirrel, that's right, squirrel. In fact, I got a little squirrel here. And I think this is what it's like for a lot of us in our lives. You know, we're going through life, we're trying to focus, we're trying to do the right thing, we're trying to grow in our faith, we're trying to be disciplined, we're trying to watch what we eat, we're trying to work out, we're trying to, you know, read more, we're trying to, whatever it may be. The challenge is so many distractions. Squirrel, 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 right? And so we all face all of these distractions, and I think particularly when it comes to important spiritual commitments in our lives, sometimes it's not that we don't want to make those commitments or that we haven't ever thought about making those commitments. It's just that we live in a world with so many distractions, we haven't taken the time to really kind of get our questions answered and to step out and make that commitment. And baptism is one of those commitments. Some of you are here today and you've never been baptized, and you haven't been baptized not for any particular reason. Many of you believe in Jesus. You've already taken that step of faith. You just haven't followed through with baptism. And part of it is just all the distractions actions going on, all the busyness going on. Some of you may have some questions about it that you've never really stopped to really ask or get answered. And so I hope in a few minutes today to just kind of herd the squirrels, if you will, and focus a little bit on this whole act of baptism and what it's about. It's interesting, when you look at the Bible, baptism is the first thing that you see followers of Jesus doing after they placed their faith and their trust in Christ. It says they believed and they were baptized. Right? They believed and they were baptized. So you see this again and again. It's a very important spiritual step. Jesus himself not only commanded it, but Jesus himself modeled it. He was baptized. In fact, when Jesus was baptized, check this out, he walked 60 miles to get to the Jordan River and be baptized. It was important enough for him to model it that he took a 60-mile journey and was baptized in the Jordan River by John the Baptist. So Jesus is modeling for us and challenging us in his great commission to his followers before he ascends into heaven. He basically challenges them and us to go into all the world and to make disciples or followers of him and to teach and to baptize in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. So baptism is a very important spiritual act. Now I want you to look with me in the Bible, if you will. We'll bring this up on the screens. Romans chapter 6. Let's look at Romans chapter 6, verse 2, because the Apostle Paul has this lengthy discussion about the importance and the picture, really, of baptism. Here's what he says. He says, this is what happened in baptism. When we went under the water, we left the old country of sin behind. I love how the Message translates this. When we came up out of the water, we entered into the new country of, help me on the red word here, what? Grace. The new country of grace. A new life in a new land. So he's like, this is the meaning of baptism. You thought somebody was just going under the water, and you're like, oh, good for them. And Paul's saying, no, there's more happening in a spiritual sense here. Baptism is representing in an outward way the inward transformation that God is doing in our life. He says, look, we're leaving the old country of sin behind. Now that doesn't mean that after you get baptized, you're perfect. Right? You're like, hey, yeah, right. But what it does mean is we've entered into the new country of grace. What does grace mean? Grace is one of those words we throw around a lot in church, but we don't always know what it means. Grace just simply means undeserved favor. You have the undeserved, unearned favor of God. And baptism is a reminder of that. Baptism is a picture that you look back at. It's not that the water saves you. It's not that going underwater or coming up out of water saves you. Jesus does the saving. Our faith is what saves us. But baptism is a picture and a reminder we look back at, and we realize that we are now in a new country of grace. We didn't get here because we deserve to be here. We didn't get here because we have it all together. We didn't get here because we didn't lose our cool when the Knights blew it, and then came back and pulled it out. Look, we're here because of the undeserved favor and forgiveness and mercy of God in Jesus Christ. And that's good news. The new country of grace. The new country of grace. Baptism is a reminder for all of us that we are now in that country through faith. So, a couple things I'd love to do with you. First is to just focus on your baptism. Encourage you to focus on your baptism. Some of you are baptized. Many of you have been baptized. You were baptized, some of you here at Central. Some of you were baptized maybe at a camp when you were younger. Maybe you were baptized in another church. Maybe you were baptized as a young person. Maybe you were baptized in a swimming pool or in a creek or in a pond. What's interesting is you study the Bible, it's not so important where you were baptized. It's not like the water is important, what kind of water that you were baptized in. There's no real indication that who baptizes you is the most important thing. Jesus has his disciples doing the baptizing, right? It's not about who baptizes you or where you get baptized. It's your own act of faith in the baptism where you look back and you've marked that moment in your life. It's an outward expression of an inward transformation that's going to go on the rest of your life and mine. An outward expression of an inward transformation. One of my favorite stories is a friend of mine named Shannon, and she grew up in a tough home, been through a lot in her life. She was in her young 30s when I had the privilege of baptizing her, and I'll never forget, we stood in the baptistry before the church, and she was just truly emotional, like crying, pretty extreme, more than just, this is meaningful, like breaking down. I'm like helping her stand up. And after the baptism, she said, Judd, do you know why I was crying in the baptistry? I said, no. And she said, I grew up in a home that was pretty rough. She said, when I was just a little kid, just old enough to talk and get around, kindergarten kind of age, I remember walking in one day and I drew a picture for my mom. And she looked at this picture and her friends were all sitting around and she made fun of the picture. And so I started to cry. And she told me, go look in the mirror. She said, so I went, looked in the mirror, and she said, now come here. She said, you're the ugliest person I've ever seen in my life when you cry. Don't ever cry in front of me again. So she said, I've been in an abusive relationship. I've had my ribs broken. I've been punched in the face. I've been hospitalized in that relationship. I've been through a lot of things in my life. But she said, since I was that age as a little girl until this moment of my baptism, I have never cried in front of another human being in my life. And she said, I stood in the baptistry today and let all those tears out, and they were not tears of pain, they were tears of joy, because I no longer care what other people think. All that matters now is what God thinks. Such a powerful moment for me about the power of baptism. And I hear it all the time. I was talking to a friend of mine who just got baptized a couple weeks ago, and she said, Jed, I knew it was going to be special. I knew it was going to be significant. I knew it was going to be important. But she said it was so much more than I thought it would be. And what Paul's saying is, look, if you've been baptized, don't forget your baptism day. Don't forget when you made that commitment in your life. Don't forget what it represents in your life. Let's look at this together. Romans chapter 6, beginning in verse 3. We'll get to the red words at the end of this verse. Help me out. He says, or have you forgotten? See, that's what we tend to do, right? We forget. He says, have you forgotten that when we were joined with Christ Jesus in baptism, we joined him in his death? For we died and were buried with Christ by baptism, and just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glorious power of the Father, now we also may live what? New lives. New lives. Paul's saying, look, don't forget. Sometimes we forget, don't we? We get frustrated at work. Things are going hard in a marriage. Things are tough in a relationship, and we forget who we are. We stop acting out of the true self that God has called us to be. We stop acting in his power and in his grace. And sometimes we get pulled back into all those old habits, all the old ways that we used to react, all the old things that we used to say. And we all wrestle with that. Paul's saying, look, don't forget. Baptism helps you remember. Say, don't forget who God has called you to be. See, baptism, the picture is twofold. On the one hand, you go in the water and you come up out of the water, right? It's brief, it's just a moment, but it means a lot. It means, first of all, a picture that God has washed you from your sins. You've been cleansed. It's not that the water does it, your faith does it. It's already happened, but baptism is a picture of what God has done in washing you in your life. Secondly, and you may have picked it up in this verse that we just read together, baptism is a way that we reenact the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. He says you're buried with Christ in baptism. So you go into the water, and the idea is Jesus was taken down off the cross, and he's placed in a tomb, right? You're buried with him in baptism. Don't worry, we don't hold you down long. We don't wait till you kick. Bring you right back up. But the picture is, just as Christ was buried, he rose again. And so we're called to walk in a new life. Some of you right now, it's a hard season. Things are tough at work. Things are hard at home. Listen, remember your baptism. Remember who you are. Remember that you're in the new country of grace. Remember that you're united with Christ because of what he's done and who he is. Remember, you are free and you are forgiven. Your past is wiped clean and your future is secure in him. Remember that his spirit is within you. His power is within you. I always say you're not dead yet, so you're not done yet. God has purpose for you. He has mission for you. He has things for you to accomplish. Remember. C.S. Lewis, who said, often in our lives, we don't need to be taught as much as we need to be reminded. And Jesus is in the act of baptism, and Paul is saying, look, remember, don't have you forgotten. Don't forget your baptism and what it represents for you in your life. Remember your baptism. Here's another thought, and that is focus on your questions. Some of you've never really understood baptism. You've never really thought about baptism. You have a lot of questions about baptism. For some of you, you grew up in a different faith tradition. Maybe you grew up even as a Catholic and you were baptized as a baby and kind of went through that experience and you wonder, should I be baptized again? And I think that's a very important question. I was baptized as a baby. Should I be baptized again as an adult? Should I take this step again? And here's what I would say about that. If you were baptized as a baby, that's a pretty beautiful thing. I mean, your parents took you to the church as a baby. They took you forward. They sprinkled water on your forehead. They baptized you as a baby. And it's a beautiful picture of their dedication to you and their dedication of you to God. And I certainly don't want to take anything away from that experience if that's the experience that you've had in your life. The interesting thing is, as I look through the Bible, you don't see really any record of infants being baptized. And you see people as adults being baptized. And I think one of the powerful moments of that is that baptism represents something you can remember. So you can look back and acknowledge and remember that you were baptized. So if you were baptized as an infant, my encouragement to you would be to consider being baptized as an adult. Not to negate what your parents did for you, but really to fulfill it. Your parents took you to the church, they had you sprinkled, they had you dedicated, they had you committed to God. And in many ways, as you've gone on your own spiritual journey as an adult and come into your own knowledge of faith in Jesus Christ, and you take that step and commitment in your life, you're fulfilling their prayer for you that you would follow God and open your heart to Him in your life. Now here at Central, we dedicate babies, and we have opportunities, and we did it just recently where we'll dedicate babies to the Lord and pray over them, but we don't baptize babies. We want kids to wait until they're old enough, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, so they have a real understanding and framework of what baptism means. And our hope too is that they'll be able to look back and remember that moment, that commitment, that decision that they're making in their life. Now, some of you may say, well, I've been baptized before as an adult, but I feel like I should do it again, right? Come on, you know what I'm talking about, right? You're like, I got baptized last year, Judd, but man, it didn't work. I need to get baptized again. And aren't you glad that we don't have to get baptized every time we sin or make a mistake? I mean, if that was the case, I've said before, we'd have drive-through baptism. You just come through 24 hours a day, man. People just be showing up. I wouldn't leave. I'd just hang out in the parking lot, I guess. I don't know. Look, if you've been baptized before, I only think you need to get baptized once in your life. Because again, it's not a picture of, it's not like when you go into the water and come out, now you're forgiven and you're clean, and as soon as you sin again, you're not. Jesus is the one who saves us. Our faith is what ultimately brings salvation into our life. We're now in a new country of grace, but baptism is that outward expression of the inward transformation of what God is doing. And so, some of you may have been baptized years ago. Maybe you've gone through a lot in your life. Maybe, as a teenager you were baptized, and then you spent 20 years on the run from God and finally have come back home to God. And now you feel like you're in a place in your life where you really sense God is calling you to take that step in a new way in your life and to be baptized. And if you've been baptized before and would like to be baptized again, we will not get in your way, that's for sure. That's between you and God, and we'll celebrate that, and that's awesome. I just don't want you to feel any false sense of pressure like you have to do this if you've already done it before. Here's another question. People think, do I have to get my life together before I get baptized? Can you hear from the laughter the answer to that question? But it's a real question. A lot of times we think, man, I got to get stuff together. I got to get this addiction worked out. I got to get this relationship stuff worked out. I got to get really committed to God and everything squared away, and then I'll get baptized. But what you see in the Bible is you see people getting baptized as the first part of their faith journey, not the end. It's not like they put it off for years and years and years so they could work everything out. When Peter preaches the first message in the book of Acts, that message is delivered, and it says 3,000 people that day believed and were baptized. 3,000 people that day. By the way, the first church was a large church right from the get-go. And so they believed and they were baptized as an expression of what God had done in their life. You know, I always say, I heard somebody say it years ago, and it's just stuck with me. You don't get cleaned up to take a bath, right? I mean, that'd be great. Like, what are you doing? I'm getting cleaned up. Why? I'm going to take a bath. Like, we would hear that, and we would say, that's crazy, right? You just come and you take a bath. And when it comes to baptism, you don't have to get cleaned up to take a bath. You don't have to have your life all worked out. Baptism is about commitment and faith. It's saying, Jesus, I believe in you. God, I trust you. And I'm expressing that outwardly in baptism, and I need you in my life. Look, just because you get baptized doesn't mean you'll never sin again. Just because you get baptized doesn't mean you won't lose your cool watching the game. Just because you get baptized doesn't mean you won't have really bad days. Life will go on. But what it does mean is you'll look back and remember, I have marked my faith, not only in asking Christ to come into my life, but through the expression of baptism. I'm remembering that I am made new in Jesus Christ. I'm walking in who God wants me to be as a person. Baptism helps you mark that. And so I remember talking to a neighbor of mine years ago, and he said, yeah, Judd, he goes, I need to do that. He goes, once I get a few more things worked out in my life, I'm going to come up to the church and I'm going to be baptized. And I'll never forget standing there, looking right in the eye. I just said, no, you won't. It was a little awkward moment. And I said, I've been a pastor a long time, man. That day is never going to come. You have to just step out and get baptized in the messiness of where you're at right now and let God show up and work in your life. And he's like, So I'll see you this weekend, right? Didn't happen, but. So I don't know about you and your life. I don't know what your questions are, what some of your excuses have been. I know we live in a world that's really busy with a lot of distractions. We have had a lot of people in the Central family, many of you, become followers of Jesus even in the last year. Start that spiritual journey, surrender your lives, and I love that, I celebrate it. And my challenge to you now is, follow through with that commitment in baptism, not to be forgiven, not out of some weird sense of guilt, but to show your commitment and to pledge your loyalty to Jesus Christ and to look back and realize this was a marker for me in my faith. Now, some of you, you're already thinking, well, that's good, I should do that, but you know, I didn't really come prepared to get baptized, and I don't have the right clothes for it. That's okay. Everybody who gets baptized here at Central gets a baptism t-shirt. It looks just like this. It says, raised to new life. And it just is a picture, a reminder for all of us that this is what baptism represents. So we've got changing rooms. You can slip this t-shirt on over your existing clothes. You put it on separately, whatever. Like, we got clothes for you. We got it covered. Across our locations, some of you are like, well, I don't know, I didn't bring a towel. That's okay. We got towels across all of our locations. Some of you are thinking, well, I've got my wallet, I got my purse, I got my valuables, and I don't even want to let go of them, so what do I do there? Well, we've got Ziploc baggies that you can put all that stuff in. You can even take it under with you if you want. We'll baptize your wallet. You know, we'll put it in a Ziploc. It can go right down there with you. You'll be good. Some of you, you're thinking like, I don't know, man, if I get baptized, like my car, I don't want my car to get wet. It's my ride, and I got it all clean. It looks really nice right now. So we have black trash bags at every one of our locations that you can set in the seat to keep your seat from getting wet. Some of you say, well, my hair. Now we're getting real. Let's get real, right? My hair. It's a good hair day. It's off to a good start here. I don't want to get my hair wet, and I'll be embarrassed. Other people will see me with wet hair. Here's what I'll say about baptism. It's the great equalizer, right? Whether you have a $150 haircut or a $15 haircut or a buzz cut or you're just bald, we all come out of the water the same. And I would just say, if you're worried about how you look, remember this. Jesus went to the cross for you. The least you can do is get a little wet for him. And when you're around family and friends like you have across all of our Central Online locations, you're going to be around people who've been there themselves and who want to celebrate that moment with you. Some of you are like, well, that's good. Yeah, that's good, but I don't have time. I got plans right after church or things I've been banking on, which is why across our locations, we're about to let you out of church early. Because I'm watching the time and I'm thinking right now, you got time to pretty much get baptized, make that step in your life, get all your stuff together, and still get off property at the same time you were already planning to get off property. So, you know, when Philip in the book of Acts was riding along in a chariot with an Ethiopian, there's a moment where they're having a conversation and he shows this Ethiopian faith in the Bible, and the Ethiopian places his faith and his trust in Jesus. And there's this classic moment where right after placing his faith and trust in Jesus, this is what the Ethiopian says. Acts chapter 8, verse 36, he says to Philip, this is right after he comes to faith. They're riding along in the chariot in the countryside. He says, look, water. What prevents me from being baptized? And that's the question I ask you today. What prevents you? What do you really have to lose if you're a follower of Jesus from following through with that command? And so the Ethiopian gets out of the chariot, walks right down into the water. He doesn't have baptismal robes. There's no holy choir. There's no holy water. It's just right there in the moment as he believes. He's, look, here's water. Let's do it. And he takes that step in his life. So I want to encourage you today, if you've never been baptized, if God's leading you to take that step across all of our locations. I'm going to throw it now to our different location pastors who are going to talk you through exactly how you can do that at your location.
If you made Jesus the leader and forgiver of your life today, I want to say congratulations. It's the best decision that you'll ever make. And here at Central, we're committed to helping you take next steps as you begin that journey with Jesus. We have a resource called a New Beginnings Journal that we want to send you. You can go to centralonline.tv/welcome, fill out a short form, and make sure you click the box, I raised my hand. And when you do, we're going to send you a virtual copy of this New Beginnings Journal. Well, hey, if you're interested in baptism, you can go to centralonline.tv/baptism and learn more there. Or if you want to get baptized and you don't live near a location, if you have a friend or family member who has made Jesus the leader and forgiver of their life, they can baptize you in any body of water. But make sure you film it and send it to us because we want to celebrate it with you. So film it on your phone and send it to centralfilms@centralonline.tv. And hey, from now until next week, hang on to Romans 8. If God is for us, who could be against us? Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week.